This girl was raped by her lover vile friend. She almost died alone in the desert during the day. It was hot like fire, and at night she was shivering cold, but her eyes were still steadfast and determined to hunt down those criminals. That depravity goes to the end of the earth. Will she be able to take revenge? Please join me in the watching this super good, super dramatic movie. A private plane has just landed at a resort villa on the edge of a cliff, hanging in the middle of the desert. Jennifer's walked down with her long legs and her mouth sucking sweet candy like the way she scooped Ben into a baby for her boyfriend, who had just entered her room, making her lover Jay as high as a teddy bear. Pants after 77-69, the round of bricks, continuously Jennifer's walked down to the kitchen to refuel. Suddenly 2 men held hot good in their hands, scaring her so much that she had to pee in her pants. It turned out they were both BCH best friend. First there was the young man with a hairy mouth like an old man. My boss name was San, and the fat guy wearing a hat next to him was called Michi. The 2 men stood looking at the hot girl in front of them and swallowed their saliva. That night they held a party. It was very grand and fun outside, with only the fat guy from Amici sitting in a corner holding binoculars to look at you. You have to stop being so beautiful. At the end of the party, he brought out a bag of white powder, the highest quality heroin in the world. Just a small bag can make the whole football team go to the roof to catch the chicken overnight. He gave it to Jennifer and told her to put it away so that after playing, he would get high and forget the way home. Who would the way home? Who would have thought she brought it? It went out and hid inside the necklaces, then turned back to the lively music and began to dance provocatively. This scene made Stan so enthralled that he couldn't take his eyes off him. He happily ran up and danced with him. The beauty invited her, but before she could rub the nightingale for long, she left. The announcement of the end of the party made the 2 young men lose all excitement. The next morning, Star enthusiastically prepared the food and waited for her friend. When he woke up, he politely invited Jennifer to sit down and take the opportunity to apply the remaining lotion on her back. She saw the beauty looking around to find her boyfriend. Stan immediately reassured him that he had just gone to submit his passport, so it would probably take all morning. Limichi was so drunk she was lying unconscious in the pool and probably wouldn't recover until the afternoon, so it was just the 2 of us. So an opportunistic young man immediately suggested doing it a few times with eyes full of hunger. Jennifer felt like something was wrong, so she took out her phone to contact her boyfriend, but after calling for a long time, the doctor didn't answer, so she immediately made an excuse that she had to prepare things and left the dinner table. Why the hell did Stan sneak into the room, watching her girlfriend change clothes until Jennifer found out? She apologized. I was just passing by and didn't mean to scare her. The hairy-mouthed young man showed her a postcard and told the girl to call him if she needed anything. We can do something together. Seeing that Jennifer always tries to avoid Stan, she goes straight to the point of what she doesn't like about me. Jennifer tensely replies that it's simply not my style. Why am I handsome? Such a big potato is not her style. Before that question, the beauty also said directly that he was too short and that I like taller men than her. Hearing this, Stan was so angry that he had no intention of hiding it anymore. He made a threat and forced Jennifer in, close to the glass, and was preparing to act. Amici suddenly opened the door and walked in. The beauty was in tears, begging the fat man to please save me. He unexpectedly took a bite of the cake and then coldly turned away. Outside, he closed the door, leaving the girl screaming in pain and humiliation. Daikak returned to the room and immediately felt something unusual. Jennifer lay in the corner crying and said she wanted to go home immediately, but left Daikak, reassured her that everything had been resolved. He had arranged for a new job for her and the money had been transferred to her own accounts, but Jennifer threw the piece of paper on the group and insisted on going home. It turned out the transfer had already been done. Agreeing to let his 2 best friends seduce his lover in the exchange for a chance to enrich her beauty was the most valuable thing he offered in exchange. After learning this, Jennifer was extremely angry. Angrily, she picked up the phone and asked Daikak to call a plane to pick her up, otherwise his wife would know everything. Who would have thought that as soon as she finished speaking, she would receive a slap in the face and her mind would be dizzy. Who are you? You cheap. Jennifer desperately got up and ran out of the resort. Seeing that, Daikak and her friend immediately chased after her. After a while, 3 tall, muscular men successfully cornered the girl. The transporter went to the cliff and pretended to call a helicopter to calm Jennifer's spirit. Then he suddenly approached and pushed her straight down the cliff. To Sam's panic, he thought that Jennifer was dead. So the transported quickly returned to the area. She burned all of her belongings to increase the evidence, and the other 2 depraved friend prepared guns for the hunt. But as usual, at the same time in the desert, drops of blood fell one after another, causing her to fall. The ant almost broke her head. Jennifer woke up with a log piercing through her stomach, trying to suppress the pain. She reached out to pick up a lighter and burned the dry leaves underneath. Thanks to that, the heroine successfully escaped, but she didn't have time to rest. While resting, they heard the sound of a car engine approaching frantically. It turned out that the 3 bastards wanted to check the scene to make sure the owl Jennifer tried to crawl close to the hidden cliff. Their vision saw that the victim had disappeared. Stan thought that the girl may not be dead yet. We should find her and take her to the hospital for treatment, then use the money for a lawyer to take care of the remaining issues, but Dikak is afraid of going to prison to eat with the government, so she insists on killing her. Jennifer wanted San, even thought she didn't want to, she had to do it. She couldn't believe that even after a minutes of pleasure, she would have to suffer like this. They quickly climbed into the car and began their search in the valley. It was dark, they had just arrived, but there was only her belt left. Jennifer promptly moved away from the scene, following the traces. Left in the sand, she got into the car, determined to pursue her to the end, but Viet blood disappeared when she reached a stream, river, so San said he would stay and watch over the other two people, then split into two directions to search for Jennifer. At this time, the female lead, with a fatal wound on her body, was still trying to run away without stopping, hearing noises and light in the distance. She immediately held her breath and dived into the tube to avoid being discovered. By the Dichi, the cold and the wound seemed to make Jennifer exhausted. Only her strong will to survive could help her overcome the disaster. This time, the female protagonist hid behind a rock. Stone observed and discovered that the fat guy was setting up a gun on the ground to pee. She took the opportunity to slowly approach him. When he noticed and turned around, Jennifer had already taken the gun. Her eyes showed excitement. Extremely indignant, the female lead immediately pulled the trigger to finish off this bastard, but nothing happened. It turned out that Dichi had successfully set a trap. He deliberately staged a scene of diabetes and left the gun on the ground to lure Jennifer out. Now the fat guy doesn't bring the prey back, but instead puts her head down and starts lecturing her about the doctrine of hunting. Who would have thought that the female lead would pull out a knife and hold it to her thigh, resulting in the fat guy eating it right away. The apple fell into the water, enchanted on spot. Jennifer pulled the knife out of his head and got into the car. She drove away into the endless night, but before she could get far, she ran out of fuel and had no other choice. She had to continue her journey. To warn her, bare feet and fatal wound on her body. However, if she continues to walk like that, she will soon be exhausted and die. So the female lead has found a way to light a to warm herself to rest in her backpack. Of the fat man, only a can of beer could fit into his mouth. Jennifer was angry. She drank it all in one gulp and then started to pull the wooden stake out of her stomach, but because it was too painful, she had to give up halfway. Poor Jennifer lay down and cried, feeling sorry for her tragic fate. Looking at the pendant, the female lead suddenly remembered her dead lover bag, heroin, and taught her that life was the most important thing right now, so she put it all in her mouth. It just entered Ma Tai through, immediately took effect. It helped the heroine forget the pain and become more excited. She lit a lighter, sterilized the knife, and then began treating the wound. After pulling the log out of her stomach, she quickly heated it up. The beer can was then pressed into the wound to stop the bleeding. This scene made everyone who witnessed it terrified. Jennifer was in so much pain that she passed out without knowing it. The next morning, Dikak returned with the animal she had just hunted. The sudden noise made Stan startle and wake up. He said a few words to his friend and then went out to wash his face so he could sleep, but suddenly the fat man body appeared, making Stan so scared that he vomited all over his pants. At this point, he couldn't stand. He quickly ran straight into the car, locked the door, and his hands and feet were shaking and sweat was flowing like a stream. It was only when Dikak knocked on the car door that he calmed down. But deep inside he was still very confused and worried. Stuffed rocks into Dichi jacket and Strand threw his best friend into the river. The weakness of the hairy-mouthed guy made the Dichi very angry as he was walking, then suddenly turned around and punched his teammates. Nasal syrup. Then he got in the car and continued to search for Jennifer whereabouts. At this time, the female lead had also just woken up. The eagle and the words on the beer, printed on the wound, gave her a pretty cool tattoo. Holding the hot item and was about to leave the cave to attack, Dikak suddenly appeared with a gun in his hand. Without saying much, he directly squeezed and finished the female lead. It turned out to be just a nightmare. He turned away many times, causing Jennifer's psychology to become somewhat unstable. It was not until the sun rose that the beauty returned to reality. She prepared all the hot goods to leave the cave to begin the hunting trip. Stranding in the middle of a cliff with four group of people, is cat. Jennifer's eyes clearly show anger and indignation. The other side, after being punched and losing her profile picture, is no obedient like her own child. She must have done something wrong, and dozes dare to disobey their plan to split up two different directions, always carrying walkie-talkies to keep in touch and searching the surrounding mountains, notifying Jennifer of his location. Realizing her opportunity, she began to track the car on the road. When the car suddenly stopped, because of an overheating error, even though she tried to start it, it still stood still and refused to move. He didn't know that the female lead was nearby. Watching him, she aimed the bullet straight at the head of the adulterous bastard. The trigger was so powerful that the bullet only hit Stan's shoulder. He took it with him, shot a gun and ran away, wanting to take down her pants. Jennifer was determined not to let her go, so she followed the blood stain on the ground, but after walking a short distance, the blood stain disappeared, causing her to carefully look around, not knowing that Stan had climbed up the cliff to ambush him, but luckily, he was injured so he missed the shot. Jennifer narrowly escaped death. She quickly stood up and ran to a dying corner. The female lead quickly broke the flashlight, breaking the glass, lying all over the ground. Stan chased after them with bare feet and kicked them. He immediately fell down screaming in agony. He mustered up all his courage and pulled out the piece of glass, then hobbled step by step and walked back to the car. The hairy man was both in pain and desperate to keep it calm down. He tried to start the car and then stepped on the accelerator to increase the speed, determined to kill Jennifer. Hearing the sound of the engine, the female lead immediately turned around and opened fire. The first shot failed to break the glass, so Stan happily gave the finger. He went up to celebrate. But the next bullet left him speechless forever, and Jennifer was so happy that he only needed to dodge slightly to avoid the oncoming car that was preparing to pick up her boyfriend's corpse. But he called again on foot. Dietrach's voice rang out, making Jennifer blood boil even more, so she immediately drove to hunt for the last prey, while Dietrach didn't receive a response from his best friend, so he lost his temper and walked around in circles. His legs were kicking and his mouth was muttering curses like some stupid idiot, cursing and getting bored. He had to return to the villa to rest. The initial aggressive look was no longer there, replaced by a look of fear and worry. Not knowing what to expect, the angel of death would crow. Feeling that the situation was not good, he quickly called a helicopter to pick him up, but the pilot said it would take another 30 minutes to arrive, so he staggered. He walked into the bathroom to wash off all the blood on it. Suddenly a strange noise rang out, startling him. Turning off the shower, then cautiously holding the gun, searching every corner, it turned out that the noise was caused by a stuck pool cleaning robot. Even though it was safe, but the driver still felt tense and looked around to make sure. As soon as he entered the house, some girls advertising armpit odor medicine on TV threatened to make him pee all over his pants. He was angry and tried to smash the TV, but I turned around and saw Jennifer holding a gun, waiting for me, listening to my explanation. I like the way your mother, even though she had been shot in the stomach by the heroine. This bastard, still Hans, told him to hurry up, grab the gun and hide in a corner, waiting for the right opportunity. However, Jennifer is no longer the same chicken as before. She has gone through terrible days. Recently, she has accumulated a lot of hunting experience. She is not in a hurry to go inside, but carefully observes the blood stares. The female lead immediately turned around and took a detour, but the bastard waited until he didn't see anything, so he started to move. Both of them kept circling around looking for each other though the walls, because of the bleeding wound. There was so much blood that the driver had to go to the kitchen to wrap plastic wrap around his body. Hearing the noise, Jennifer immediately rushed inside and dumped the gun, causing him to run away and drop her pants. She quickly chased after her, but accidentally slipped and fell, causing the gun to fall. The gun flew far away, and as a result, the butt of the gun hit her in the head, causing her to lose consciousness. He angrily ripped open Jennifer's neck, intending to finish her off. Unexpectedly, the female lead poked her in the wood and fell to the ground. She took the opportunity to grab the gun. The gun shot the bastard boyfriend to death on the spot, so in the end, Jennifer succeeded in avenging herself, because just for a moment of pleasure, 3 guys had to lose their lives. The price was too high, but it was worth it, worthy of such despicable people. This is the end of the movie. Hello, and see you again everyone.